Guess we'll call this meeting to order. It's 5:33. My name is Ron Gagnon. I'll be acting as chair for this notice of a public hearing for consideration of the public street right-of-way located in Providence, Rhode Island. It'll be running from east of Allen's Avenue, extending to the terminus of the waterfront. We'll start by a roll call of the subcommittee members. We have Patricia Reynolds. Unmute. Don Gomez.
Gomez here.
And for CRMC staff, we have Jeff Willis, Executive Director.
Present.
Anthony DeSisto, Chief Legal Counsel.
Present, Mr. Chair.
James Boyd, Deputy Director.
Present.
Leah Feldman, Coastal Policy Analyst.
Present.
Lisa Turner, Recording Secretary.
Present.
Cindy Tagney, the Court Reporter.
Present.
And do we have Ryan Moore here?
Present.
Anyone else that I leave out?
That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So I guess our next order of business will be to have Ryan Moore explain how we'll be running the Zoom meeting tonight.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's the Coastal Resources Management Council Virtual Rights-of-Way Subcommittee Public Hearing, June 29th, 2021, conducted in accordance with Executive Order 21-59, 162nd Supplemental Emergency Declaration Extension of Executive Orders. If you're having problems with the computer audio, use the call-in numbers for this meeting. The numbers will always be posted in the Zoom chat box. A note to meeting participants and attendees, please be advised this is an online meeting, including all audio, video, names, and comments visible in the chat box are being recorded. All members of the public who wish to comment during these proceedings must correctly identify themselves before proceeding. Council members, applicants, and CRMC staff, please keep your video on. Do not use phone and computer audio at the same time. Raise your hand or use the raise hand button to be recognized by the chair. Identify yourself by first and last name. Members of the public, please keep your video off. Mute your microphone when not speaking. Use the raise hand function to be recognized by the chair. Wait to be recognized by the chair and unmuted by the moderator to speak. Identify yourself by first and last name. For those on the phone, please press *9 to use that raise hand function. When recognized, identify yourself by first and last name. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hey, thank you. So now we can get right into the public testimony, I believe.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if we can have a brief intro from staff just to describe for the attendees the travel of this case and how it got to the subcommittee.
Okay.
Leah Feldman would be doing that for staff, please.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, Leah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Gagnon. So just a brief history of the public street right-of-way. We had a review done of the city tax assessor maps that shows that public street east of Allen's Avenue is a city street and not a private lot. It's not taxed as a private lot, and title documents to the properties surrounding public street east of Allen's Avenue identify the lot as being bounded by public street. The designation of this right-of-way has been supported by the Neighborhood Association, the Washington Park Association, and various other user groups in the city of Providence. And we have had lots of public support for this designation, including letters sent to the CRMC providing testimony of historic use of public access of the area. And I think with that, I will turn it over to public testimony.
Actually, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to add another factor on this. Typically, what happens for the right-of-way subcommittee is that a title search is conducted on the matter to determine the true owner of the property that will be designated as the right-of-way. I have done that in my capacity as the legal counsel for Coastal Resources Management Council. But I can't take full credit for that. I will say that I got a lot of help. As a matter of fact, most of the work was done by City of Providence staff, in particular, David Everett and Leo Parada. I have to tell you that I asked some questions about some documentation that I thought was relevant, and they provided that documentation and really dug into it. I should also mention from the Department of Attorney General, Special Assistant Attorney General Gregory Schultz provided quite a bit of information too on that, which allowed me to make a determination on behalf of the subcommittee, as you know, Mr. Chair, that public street is in fact a right-of-way, a public right-of-way to the coastal waters of the state of Rhode Island. And that is based on a resolution that was provided for me by Providence staff that I've already mentioned. An 1878 resolution by the Providence Board of Aldermen, which accepted public street in the area that will be designated as the right-of-way. Public street is longer than that, but from the intersection of Allens Avenue down to actually the harbor line, that's how it was originally laid out. I only bring that up because that is the predicate for what we're doing here today to allow the public to discuss that. And I did think it was appropriate to mention that the Providence officials really conducted some outstanding research here to make that determination. If there's any questions as to the legality of the right-of-way, I'd be happy to answer it before the public testimony takes place.
Thank you, Mr. DeSisto. Do any of the right-of-way subcommittee members have any questions or comments at this time before we start on the testimony?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, Ms. Reynolds.
This is for Attorney DeSisto. I see in the package that we received that there was an issue of an encroachment. Lots, what numbers were they? 323 and 325 had a fence and other structures. Has that been resolved?
I believe it has. I'll defer to the those from the City of Providence that will be speaking. But along the way from 1878 to today, this is a 40-foot right-of-way. That's how it was originally laid out. From the final lot heading east towards the Providence River, there was a carve-out of 25 feet. There was an encroachment, an additional encroachment onto the 25 feet, which is clearly city property. And it's my understanding, based upon the documents that I received, that has been resolved and the area is open.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comment? Okay, so are we ready to proceed with the public testimony this time?
Yes, we are, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I believe we will be starting with representatives from the City of Providence. And is Dave Everett, is he ready to give, or is he willing to give testimony?
We are bringing Dave over as a panelist right now.
Can you hear me?
You can.
I was temporarily disabled. Scared.
Just start by saying your name for the court reporter and who you're representing. please.
Yes, David Everett. I'm a principal planner with the City of Providence Department of Planning and Development. In the context of this, going back a few years, I've been staffing the Harbor Management Commission. And I just an additional historic part of this process is that it has been discussed by that body going back 3 to 5 years or more. And only recently, in the last, I believe we requested this designation. So I'm going to give a little history, which is also testimony on behalf of this. I want to really thank the staff of CRMC and Mr. DeSisto for their assistance, as well as the Attorney General's office. So we requested, based on the use of this segment of right of way and historic use of the right of way and demand from or interest on behalf of the neighborhood, which has very little access to the shore. We made a point of focusing on Public Street as the first, perhaps of maybe a few more, but this was the logical one because it already is a city street. So there's been a lot of support for it. By the way, the obstacles, the encroachment has been removed. To the best of my knowledge, it's still not there. The fencing, and there were some other barriers. But yeah, July 28th, 2020, I initiated a letter from the city signed by the mayor to request that this be officially designated to really add weight to this being a place where the public could enjoy access to the water and a little bit of open space, recognizing that it's still a functional shared use road. And so, you know, this, and as we said in the letter, this would represent a formal and substantive step in ensuring that such access and use was available to residents in these underserved neighborhoods. And the idea that it could be replicable potentially. We subsequently received a lot of support from Save the Bay, from the Washington Park Association, from the South Providence Neighborhood Association. In fact, there was a cleanup that was held. There's subsequently been a second cleanup. So there's been a lot of citizen involvement. We received additional support from letters of support, in fact, which you received from the Attorney General's office, Department of Environmental Management Director, and numerous citizens, or at least they were represented by the neighborhood groups. And I'm sure you got additional comments. And we reached out to a fairly large group of people. And I want to thank the staff for encouraging us to really get the word out, because that was instrumental in getting us to where we are now. And the research that was mentioned kind of initiated at the city level, and that was great. And Leo Parada played a big role in this. I want to say that the city is already working on the idea of, you know, what we can do to make this a more friendly and usable space. So my testimony in support of this is basically what we've been saying all along, which is that it's very important, especially in this part of the city where access is very, very limited. And thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and thanks for all the work you've done on this for us. Is there anyone else from the city of Providence that would like to speak?
I wanted to mention that the councilman, this is David Everett again, the Councilman Espinal has a conflict. So he would be speaking, and Leo Parada, the Public Works Director, I believe is here, and he, I believe, has some words to say on behalf of this.
Okay, so we'll go with Mr. Parada next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice seeing you again after so many years, and Mr. DeSisto as well. First, I'd like to thank the staff. It really wasn't my doing. The staff that we have here at Public Works provided the information that you have before you today, indicating that Public Street was accepted by the City of Providence back on January 17th, 1876 by the Board of Aldermen, and it's been in the city's possession since that time. There was a slight reduction in the width of the street, reducing it to 25 feet at one point in time. But for all intents and purposes, it's remained the same for a number of years, and it goes all the way to the coastal line. So we can confirm, based upon our research and the documents that we have in our possession, that Public Street is a city accepted street.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the city that will be speaking, or? Good. Okay, hearing none, I believe we are going to go to the Attorney General's office. We have Greg Schultz and Allison Hoffman. Mr. Schultz, do you like to lead off?
I have just promoted them, Mr. Chair.
There we go. Good afternoon, members of the council, CRMC staff, Mr. Gagnon in particular. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Certainly, it's Gregory Schultz, Special Assistant Attorney General, speaking on behalf of the Rhode Island Office of the Attorney General in support of the CRMC's subcommittee's review and recommendation that the Public Street right-of-way from Allen's Avenue to the shore should be designated as a public right-of-way. I am going to start off also, like everybody else, to thank CRMC for this expeditious review here, along with the City of Providence, Senator Espinal, Save the Bay, the South Providence Neighborhood Association, the Washington Park Association, and many other individuals that have expressed to the AG's office personally, to CRMC, and to the city facts that would support that this area of Public Street is a public right-of-way. Just want to quickly, I have a quick statement, and then I'm going to have just some other quick comments. So the Rhode Island Attorney General's office strongly supports the CRMC's proposed designation of the eastern end of Public Street in Providence between Allen's Avenue and the waterfront as an official CRMC recognized public right-of-way to the Providence waterfront. Public Street has historically been a public access point to the Providence River and Upper Narragansett Bay, as the street ends at the water's edge, as shown in, for example, the current City of Providence tax assessors plat map 46 and numerous other City of Providence maps, both current and historically dating back to the 1800s. As shown by Attorney DeSisto's report and recommendation on this matter, where he identified the city's 1876 resolution laying out Public Street. And again, with the city's maps and other historical maps and testimony that you'll have heard and will be hearing it. Clearly, this is a public space. The Attorney General's office has reviewed the title to the abutting properties to this right-of-way and fully agree with Mr. DeSisto's report and recommendation on this matter. And personally, I thank Tony for his excellent work here. There was one issue that Tony identifies with regards to title. I would characterize it as a minor glitch. He properly spells it out, but with regards to a lot 325, which was a deed that was transferred lot 325 from DEM to Conley. There was a discrepancy in the deed itself where there was a boundary call of the lot in the deed stating, I believe it was northerly by, basically saying northerly by, I think, the northern edge of Public Street. However, if you run the meets and bounds description in that deed, the meets and bounds description shows that the northern boundary could not be the northern boundary of Public Street, but must be the southern boundary. So I agree with Tony that this was a Scrivener's error, and that all other title shows that the abutters consider Public Street to be, in fact, a public street. Public access to the Rhode Island's coastal and waterfront resources, a priority mission of the Attorney General, who, like the CRMC, is empowered to protect the public's rights and interests in accessing our state's coastal resources. Unfortunately, many of these urban right-of-ways have been lost historically for a variety of reasons, and it is extremely important that the rights of way that currently exist be protected to the maximum extent possible. Thousands of residents of Rhode Island in southern Providence who live in and around this area have lost almost all public access. The residents of these already overburdened communities live only a short walk or bike ride from this area of the Providence waterfront, but they cannot access or enjoy it. I think that covers most of what I'd like to say. I guess for the record, there have been a significant number of documents that either have been identified by CRMC or the City of Providence that the Attorney General's office would like included in the record, including the report and recommendation from Attorney DeSisto, the City of Providence maps from, I believe, 1876, 1818, 1926, and 1937. The comment letters and letters in support from Councilman Espinal, from the Washington Park Association, from the South Providence Neighborhood Association, from Save the Bay. Also, 2 letters from the Attorney General's office, one dated, I believe it's October 14, 2020, and another that was dated November 9, 2020, which actually was a letter from the Attorney General's office to Airway Leasing, the current owner of Lot 325, demanding that encroachments that were in place in the right-of-way in or about November of 2020 be removed. They were removed, and a new fence was built along the southern portion of the right-of-way adjacent to Lot 325, which very clearly currently delineates the right-of-way adjacent to that lot. Further evidence that the owners of Lot 325 do not consider themselves to have an ownership interest in the public right-of-way that the public street right-of-way that abuts it. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Next is Allison Hoffman, also from the Attorney General's office.
Mr. Chair, I believe Allison was letting Greg speak on behalf of the
Okay.
AG tonight. And
I believe
do-
that's, yep, that's correct, I believe.
Thanks, Greg. I see two hands raised in the
Yes.
attendees, Mr. Chair. Jed Thorpe from Save the Bay and our good old friend Eugenia Marks would like to speak too. So your choice.
Okay, why don't we start with Eugenia Marks? I think I saw her hand first up there, so.
We'll bring her over right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the CRMC. It's nice to see each of you again. I wanted to comment on this case and thank you for the research that has been done. I'm a resident of Providence. I am a member of the Harbor Management Commission. I hold a master's degree in environmental studies from Brown and had 35 years with the Audubon Society as policy director. And in that capacity, I was the director for Rhode Island's effort in the International Coastal Cleanup, beginning in 1988. Public Street at the Bay was cleaned by a group from the First Unitarian Church in Providence sometime in the 1990s, and later by Save the Bay. I visited the site several times and saw evidence of the use of the shore and its resources as the street ended at the tide line. I found one bluefish head, several fishing lures, fishing line, and folded lawn chairs. So I'm telling you this to affirm the public use of this land in light of Article 1, Section 17 of the Rhode Island Constitution, which I'm sure you're all aware of, so I will not read it. So the use of this site as a public access has been occurring for many years, and I'm only documenting my observation within the past 30 years. I also want to raise the issue of the public trust doctrine, which dates back to old Roman and English law. I'm not a lawyer, but in my studies, I have seen cases based on public trust and ask that you do continue to do your good job of holding the public's interest as the government is supposed to do. I have worked in the South Providence area, both while I was at Audubon with Family and Children's Services and the Mary Fogarty School. And I was putting together a what's called a walking school bus for adults to walk a designated route from students' home to their school. And I've also taken Spanish classes at the Providence Community Library on Prairie Avenue. And since I've retired, I have been tutoring at the Mary Fogarty School. So I tell you this to say that I have some familiarity with the neighborhood, and that Public Street allows the most direct connection to the bay. It provides an access underneath the I-95 barrier. And obviously, as I spoke before, it is used. The nearby public access at Collier Point does not offer the same direct access. So thank you very much. Fishing is sometimes a matter of necessity for people in lower economic circumstances. It's also a recreation. And so I thank you for recommending that this be used as designated as a public right-of-way by the CRMC. And thank you very much. That ends my testimony.
Thank you. I guess next we have Jed Thorpe from Save the Bay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jed Thorpe, and I'm the Advocacy Coordinator at Save the Bay. And my comments tonight are on behalf of our members throughout Rhode Island. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide comments in support of this right-of-way designation. I know that the council doesn't always have a public hearing such as this between actions by the subcommittee and the full council, so we certainly appreciate that you chose to do so in this case. I also want to express my appreciation to the city of Providence, in particular, David Everett and Leo, who put in a lot of time and effort over the past year or two to pull together all the necessary paperwork to get us to this point. Save the Bay's mission, as you know, is to improve and protect Narragansett Bay. And that includes working not just on issues of water quality, but also working to both improve and protect public access to the Bay. So we strongly support CRMC's goal to establish at least one right-of-way for each mile of shoreline in the state. And we still have a ways to go to meet that goal, but I know that the council, the executive director, and staff are committed to that goal, and establishing a right-of-way at the end of Public Street will help CRMC towards achieving it. As right-of-way designations go, this one, frankly, appears to be relatively straightforward. I know you all know this, but members of the public may not know that CRMC's job is not to establish new rights-of-way, but rather to formally recognize existing rights-of-way and to help protect them for future use of the public. Based on information presented at the recent rights-of-way subcommittee hearing, as well as our own understanding of historical use of this location by the public, this site clearly fits the definition of an existing public right-of-way to the shore, and designation of such by CRMC is appropriate. The public street location is in one of the most densely populated areas of the state. It's one that's been historically overburdened by various sources of pollution related to the industrialized waterfront. And it's also a community that's frankly been underserved in terms of waterfront access, parks, and other outdoor public spaces. And designation of this site as a right-of-way by CRMC is an important step in protecting what little public access exists in this area. In closing, I'd just like to note that Save the Bay has conducted 2 volunteer shoreline cleanups at this location in the past 2 years, and we're committed to doing our part to keep the area clean and enjoyable for the public to use in the future. We're also committed to working with the city and other community partners to make improvements at the site and possibly also adjacent properties to further enhance the public's use of the site in the future. Thanks again for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Thank you very much. Looks like we saw a couple more hands go up.
That's correct. We will
Do you want
promote
to-
Linda Perry right now.
Okay. Okay, Linda, you're next.
Hi, everybody, and I want to thank every one of you, including Mr. DeSesto and Ron and everyone for doing this. I so much appreciate it. The AG was instrumental in helping us here, as well as Save the Bay, Mr. Parada and Pedro Espinal, our councilman. It's a long time coming, and I'm so grateful for this, because we in South Providence are severely landlocked, and we're in a terrible polluted area. And this, hopefully this will unlock us and give us public access to the water. I know when Collier Park had been closed because of the water line, the people were frantically looking for a place to fish. We got a lot of calls, and we were literally locked out of Public Street as well. So that was rectified, and now we hope that this will be the first of more than one public access in South Providence. Thank you again. I don't know what else to say, except I look forward to your decision, and a new beautiful right-of-way in the future.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Chair, is Susan Gorelick.
Okay, Susan.
Hello, am I going next? Sorry,
you
I was kind of okay. Hi, my name is Susan Shim Gorelick. I teach at Wales University. I'm also founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization called Coalition Center for Environmental Sustainability. And I also volunteer as a master gardener who oversees Providence Public Schools, 22 school gardens. So I know what it means to these students as well as these community members, how they make connection to nature and this public access that really gives them that opportunity. And the fact that this community, as everyone mentioned, that compounded with all these environmental pollutions and hazards. And once people have this access, they really can make these connections. I think it will give them opportunity to empower what they can do. And that's the only way we can change, all these environmental issues, and also it will address environmental justice. As a chemist and as an environmental and natural resource economist, I've done a lot of studies, and then I am working very hard at Johnson & Wales and other higher academic institutions get involved with the community engagement, so they actually learn about this, as well as again making changes that is based on communities' voices, not any government agencies or organizations' agenda. So thank you for providing this opportunity, and I hope this is moving forward and going forward, and then it opens a lot of opportunities that people rebuilding relationship with this Providence water body, and I think it's very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see.
I just promoted Sam Corin, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Corin.
Hi, thank you, everyone. I dropped in a little bit late, so I don't know if I'm repeating anyone's comments, but I also want to register my support for this change to a public access point designation. I'm a resident of Providence, and I have a son who lives, maybe 2 blocks away from there on Eddy Street. And even just looking at, in terms of shoreline access in the city of Providence, there's a great imbalance between what the east side and the downtown neighborhoods enjoy in terms of being able to walk out your front door and be at the river and enjoy the breezes and even fish, to the experience of the south side. And I think this is a great opportunity, not only to provide that public access, but also, as other people have said, to create an opportunity for the people living in the neighborhood to have some hand in visioning what happens at the site. So that's about all I wanted to say, but thank you again for the platform and for your work.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Corin. Next, we have, it looks like, Doug Victor. Mr. Victor, you are ready to go.
Mute. I don't know quite what happened to my screen. Anyway, my name is Doug Victor, and I chair Elmwood and South Providence Neighborhood Crime Watch. I've been a resident of Providence and the South Side for 36 years. And I think this is a day to celebrate, because officially declaring this end of public street a public right-of-way really builds the quality of life in a small way, but a very significant way for the residents of the South Side for too many years, who have had to kind of bear an overburdening of certain corporate, industrial, and other kinds of inequities. So I want to thank you very much for this. It's something that many people have been working on for quite a while. And I would also like to make mention that this shoreline was used by Native Americans well before the deeding of 1876. And I think this is also in some way, although I don't want to speak for anyone else, but this could be seen as a move in the right direction to kind of restore people's rights to the shoreline. And so it provides an opportunity, I think, for people to use it, but also to have their rights to public access to the water in their neighborhood preserved. So I thank you very much, and I will turn the meeting over to whomever is next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Victor. Looks like we have Josh Parks next.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the subcommittee. My name's Josh Parks. I'm an attorney representing SMM New England Corporation, which does business as Sims Metal Management. And I'm glad to hear—
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat it?
Sure. I'm an attorney representing SMM New England Corporation, which does business as Sims Metal Management. And I'm glad to hear of all the interest in Providence's working waterfront, and just wanted to raise a few points as one of Public Street's next door neighbors. Sims is representative of the surrounding area, and that it's involved in the industrial operations that are essential to a functioning and thriving port, of which Providence is, as the flagship city of the ocean state. Sims deals with bulk products and provides stevedoring services to visiting cargo ships. A large part of the business involves the berthing and lightering of 30,000 to 50,000 ton ships, and bringing their cargo shoreside to then go onto trucks and other intermodal forms of transport throughout southern New England. As a result, there's constantly trucks and other heavy traffic that you'd expect to find in a port facility along that Allens Avenue Public Street intersection. For example, some trucks go between Sims to the south of Public Street, across to the north side, which is where the salt facility is located. And this use is pretty consonant with how the surrounding area has been used for many, many decades. In fact, the waters off Public Street are designated as Type 6 waters, which, as I know the CRMC is aware, are those type waters that are reserved for industrial waterfronts and commercial navigation channels, which is reflective of the industrial character of the area. So accordingly, any development that takes place needs to take these historical uses into account and be respectful of all of the users of the area. We encourage that public safety is probably best considered when there's big ships, a lot of trucks and other heavy uses in that surrounding area. So just to close, thank you for the opportunity to address the subcommittee. Glad there's interest in Providence working waterfront, and we look forward to working with everybody as this goes forward. Thank you.
May I ask a question of Mr. Parks?
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Chico.
Is that an objection to the designation of Public Street as a right-of-way?
It's not a formal objection.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parks. I don't see any other hands raised at this time. Are there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? Not seeing any more hands. Mr. Willis, do you see anything further? Or?
No, Mr. Chair, I believe that would be it for the public testimony portion of this hearing.
Okay, so at this time, is it appropriate to close the public hearing testimony?
It is, and afterwards, I'd like the opportunity to make some comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing testimony for the public street right-of-way and turn it over to Mr. DeSisto to explain what our next steps are and how we'll be proceeding from here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The process is actually moving far along. The first part, as Ms. Feldman adverted to, was whether or not this public street is in fact public property and a right-of-way to the shore. And as Mr. Everett's testimony demonstrated, I think, that this has been a public street, and a public right-of-way actually to the shore since 1876. So you have my report, which references that. The next step was to set this down for a public hearing. That was today. And as the testimony from Save the Bay, I believe that was Jed, correct me if I'm wrong, as he said, that the job of the CRMC is to designate existing rights of way for this and to preserve them. And that's what's going on here. Based on the testimony today, I think my recommendation as your legal counsel is to recommend that you set this matter down on a subcommittee agenda at the next council meeting prior to, so that you can formally vote to recommend to the full council that public street from the intersection of Allens Avenue east to its terminus at the Providence River be designated as a public right-of-way. Once you do that, my other recommendation would be that it be on the council agenda so that they can take the formal action, and then the necessary steps can be taken afterwards so that this is designated as a public right-of-way.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeSisto. Do we need to make a motion to proceed with your recommendations this time?
No, so long as I get a nod of the head from Mr. Willis, you can go right ahead and have that set down. This was actually posted, your agenda posted was just for the public hearing.
Right. So, Mr. Chair, what we will do based on what legal counsel has just explained was set the next rights of way subcommittee for the same day as the July full council meeting, just ahead of it, so that the subcommittee can make its formal recommendations to the full council at that point. And then on that full council's agenda will be this matter, plus whatever other matters they have that night.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the subcommittee members at this time? Okay. Hearing none, do we need a motion to adjourn, or do we just able to close it?
You actually need a motion to adjourn.
Okay, so
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
second by Mr. Gomez. Do we need a roll call, or can we just do a voice vote?
You can do a voice vote.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. So I believe, yes, Mr. Willis?
No, just so say, see you in July.
Okay, so I guess that concludes our meeting, and thank you everyone for attending and for all those who participated and gave us comments. And have a good night.
Thank you,
July,
Ron.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good night.